was a girl with dreams so wide, eyes full of wonder, heart open, untied. The world seems soft, a place to lay. Ran through the days in the sun's warm sway. But somewhere along the road, I felt the shift. The days turned heavy like an
Today, I am taking you on a property tour to show you what we were able to accomplish while living in campers on this property. We established it from the ground up, and what's so cool is that we are able now to circle back to some of the things that we first did.
I'm in between, I'm not quite all, a girl, a woman, both in my soul, learning to balance, learning to be in the struggle. I find the real me. I feel the pull of who I should be, caught between the past and what I can see. The weight of the change rests on my chest.
But because we were able to establish here and not just drive back and forth, we were able to really focus while living in our camper and build up the infrastructure on this property. And one of the main things, huge things for this property as far as being an established farm, we were able to establish fencing here on this property while living in campers.
Somewhere along the road, I felt the shift. The days turned heavy like an unseen rift. The girl that I was began to fade, and in her place, a new self was made.
So we actually were able to establish the barn, our 30-day barn build, while living in our first Resurrection camper, Happy Camper. We were able to do some amazing things with our fencing. Actually, it was a post back here on the other side of the barn where Tim literally caught the tractor on fire.
I'm in between. I'm not quite old, not quite girl, a woman. So I'm learning.
I can remember we were in the fifth wheel camper because I remember him just calmly walking down, and he was just like, "Babe, call the fire department. The tractor is on fire." And I was like, "What?" Yeah, tractor on fire. He didn't tell me at that point that he was on the tractor when it caught fire and that he jumped off and barely escaped the flames. But yeah, so I can, needless to say, we worked extremely hard establishing this property while still living in camper. What is up, Resurrection Ranch family? Today, I am taking you on a property tour to show you what we were able to accomplish while living in campers on this property. We established it from the ground up. And what's so cool is that we are able now to circle back to some of the things that we first did, and you'll see those things on IAG Farms. But I'm at the top of our property, and basically we started here even before we had our first resurrection camper. It's almost like a pre-resurrection camper. It was before Jesus had like formalized the vision of breathing life into dry bones and asking us the question, can these dry bones live? And we were able to literally establish a business model, a godly business model from just those words that he spoke to us. And so now we have the Resurrection Ranch LLC, where we can employ people, where we are restoring campers. There's all sorts of things that the Lord wants to do out of that. We even have another property, raw land that we have purchased. So there's so much that's there. There's so much that's there. But I wanted to just show you around on IAG Farms, because we were operating in that vision of, can these dry bones live, when we established this property here. And our fifth wheel camper was, and we even had a camper before the fifth wheel camper, but campers were a way that we were able to be on the property, have a place to break, go to the bathroom, sit in some air conditioning, because this Mississippi heat, y'all, it makes it possible if you have, a place to like rest and kind of rejuvenate. You can, go back out there and do the project. But y'all, when we first started doing projects out here without campers, we were like sitting on a bucket under a shade tree, and then we would get back to work. So you can only imagine how difficult it was to do projects that way. But campers literally were a game changer. We were able then to like take a break, eat a meal, have cold drinks, have, just a comfortable place to sit and breathe and relax, so we could get back out to projects. So we were able to clear this whole area here. Like, it was so thick with brush, we could hardly walk through it, but we literally were able to clear it all down, and now it's like freshly mowed and beautiful, and you can walk through it. Our lawn art back there, we pulled that out of the woodlands, we were calling it at that time. Now it's grandma's homestead, that's where she lives, but we pulled that out, and we want that to be kind of decorated with flowers. We have some ideas of making that into some lawn art. So all these things that we kind of like established when we were living in campers and we were off grid, we are circling back around to now to kind of make it beautiful. So this whole top of the property is going to transform even more, but I want to take you on a tour and just kind of show you what we were able to do and how we were able to establish while living in campers on this property. We cleared this entire spot. Even now, we've let the fence line grow up a bit just for privacy. But we have plans to come back and do some nice, like white, maybe fencing, and really make this area look good when you first come on the property. Like I was saying before about Rover, we pulled this out of the woodland property. We just were discovering things on that property, and it had been abandoned, and we thought it would make the most amazing lawn art. And so we plan to put flowers here, all, you know, in the trunk and all surrounding it. We wanted to just look really, really beautiful when you first land on the top of the property. And so we've cleared out this spot. We had a tractor named Samson, and Samson earned its name clearing out in this area here. And our first, no, this was the second camper, but our fifth wheel camper, just on the other side of the pond dam. You can't see the pond from here because this is the top of the hill. But down the bottom of the hill on the other side of the pond is where we had our fifth wheel camper. So when we were here with our fifth wheel, we actually kind of made our home here at the top of our property, and we were able to do so much clearing. One of the huge things that we got was our water meter. Y'all, that was huge. And we actually haul water for a long period of time. While on this property, we were able to, have the water meter, haul water back. Once we lived back further down, and we'll walk down there near our barn site. When we lived there in that area, we hauled water from here. We just had huge tanks that we would fill up here, and then we would take them back to wherever we needed them on our property, whether we were going back there to water the animals or if we needed water to fill up our camper ourselves. We were able to use the water meter here, and we had water on our property just by trucking it around. But before we did that, we literally haul water from the city here in order to water our animals. So this water meter was a game changer for us, and we had a spigot there, and we would just use it how we needed to use it on our property, and no longer did we have to haul water from the city. But that was a project that we were able to accomplish here, and that was a game changer for our campers, for establishing this property. And yeah, that made the huge difference. And then later on, while living here in a camper, we were able to get water lines. So I'm actually going to walk down along the water line and show you the other things that we were able to establish while on this property, living in campers. So not only were we able to actually get water lines now running on our property, it's been a dream come true now that we actually have some spigots that we use. And I'll show you where they are. They're at each of our farm gates on our property. And so now watering the animals is woo! But it was not always that way. But because we were able to establish here and not just drive back and forth, we were able to really focus while living in our camper and build up the infrastructure on this property. And one of the main things, huge things for this property as far as being an established farm, we were able to establish fencing here on this property while living in campers. And here are our huge fence posts. So originally, we were going to use these big old posts to build a barn, but we realized that the material that we had for the barn was actually not big enough for as big as we were going to build it with these humongous posts. So we actually decided to use these posts to for fencing, and it's worked out so great, and it's been unbelievable to have the fencing that we have, hard fencing, because Tim labored so much over those electric netting, moving our hogs on pasture, but now we have solid fencing. These posts have worked really well. I can remember one particular post that Tim and I were trying to stretch toward the barn site, and these posts, you would think they're solid, they don't move, but if you don't have an H-brace, you can still move these big posts. So lesson learned on that. I kept telling Tim, yeah, come on, a little tighter, a little tighter. Well, not knowing that, hey, I was moving that big post. So, but they've worked great. They've been really solid. We dug those holes really deep. I think it was at least 3 feet, maybe even 4 feet. I can't remember. But we dug them pretty. Tim dug all those holes. I was responsible for tamping some of the holes in after he had a long, hard day of digging holes and setting the posts in the ground. But yeah, we were able to establish this beautiful fencing while living in campers on this property. I think we did a lot of it while we were actually living in our fifth wheel camper. So we established a lot while at the top of this property, and that was huge for us, huge for our animals, in order to have some solid, little bit of a dip down there, but huge for our animals in order to have some solid fencing that, you know, they can't just get out of like every day. Animals still get out, but hard fencing really is a game changer. When you're just relying on electric fencing or electric netting, it can ground out when there's rainy weather. When it gets muddy, they can easily just the pigs at least can easily root and kind of push the mud or push twigs that fall onto the netting and ground it out. So there's so many variables when you have electric netting, and then you're not living on the property. I think that's also been a game changer, the fact that we live here and we can see when animals get out and take care of it right away. But nothing like having hard fencing that's just there, that you don't have to worry about grounding out or, you know, a stick falling on it, and then all of a sudden all your animals are out. So that's a huge thing that we were able to establish on this property while living in campers, having the fencing, having water lines where we can get water to each section of the pasture. We have a whole spigot up here. I'll show y'all that we're able to now easily fill up the waterers and water the animals, and we have just a really, really good infrastructure, not just for us, but for our farm and for our animals. So that is really cool. We're coming up on our farm gate, and the plan also is to have some more cross fencing so that we can rotate our animals. Right now they just rotate themselves and eat whatever choice grass they want. They have this whole pasture that they can, you know, peruse and eat. But eventually we'll do more rotational grazing once we have more cross fencing. But here's our first whole spigot here, and we're able to easily now fill up these waterers for our sheep. And at each farm gate we have a similar spigot where we can do the same. And so you see how happy the sheep are. They're just roaming around, out eating grass, doing their sheep thing. And they're able to do that because we have an established infrastructure on our farm with the fencing and the farm gates. And y'all, we waited so long on the first farm gates that enter our property, and now we have several gated sections that the animals we're able to move them in and out of however we need to. So now we're approaching our barn, and we actually did a 30-day barn build. I think it ended up being like 40 days, but that was close enough, like for real. It was probably 30 actual days, but we had some days there, you know, in between where we couldn't work for some different reasons. But yeah, so 30-day barn build, and we were able to do it while living off-grid in Happy Camper, our first resurrection camper, although the fifth wheel is, I'm almost gonna amend that, I don't know, but the fifth wheel, I don't know, pre-resurrection camper or something like that, leading up and giving us all the things we needed in order to take the leap of faith to have resurrection camper. But yeah, 30-day barn build here. It's amazing what we were able to do. However, all this was not done in the 30 days. We just had the basic structure that was dried in. This was just house wrap for a long time before we sided it and painted it and put tin roof on. We had a felt roof for a while. But the main thing is, y'all see that beautiful chimney? We had a wood stove and we could warm our camper. Gideon chasing chickens. We could warm our camper. We could be warm and nothing was gonna freeze over winter because we had this amazing structure. And also we had such torrential winds come through, and by having the camper attached to this barn and being under this covering, y'all, we barely even felt it in the camper. And this these posts are solid. My husband and my boys, they built this. They laid that concrete and those sonotubes, and this thing is solid. They even use hurricane ties for the roof, so it is solid, y'all. Solid for real. And those winds came through, and we knew that it was some bad weather, but we literally barely felt it. And the next morning we came out, the swimming pool was torn up all over the place. We had a tree down over here, but we were safe under the covering of the barn. So we actually were able to establish the barn while living off-grid in Happy Camper, our first Resurrection camper. We were able to do some amazing things with our fencing. Actually, it was a post back here on the other side of the barn where Tim literally caught the tractor on fire. I can remember we were in the fifth wheel camper because I remember him just calmly walking down, and he was just like, "Babe, call the fire department. The tractor is on fire." And I was like, "What?" Yeah, tractor on fire. He didn't tell me at that point that he was on the tractor when it caught fire and that he jumped off and barely escaped the flames. But yeah, so I can, needless to say, we worked extremely hard establishing this property while still living in campers. But all of the major things, the infrastructure that we have here, we even got Emma while we were living here in the camper, and that's why we were able to establish, the infrastructure, the water lines, the electricity. We got the power pole back here, all the things, because we were actually living here and we weren't driving back and forth to the city anymore. We had an established place to live, to stay, to make our home. And what we've been able to do is to establish, y'all, more and more abundantly. Y'all have to check that out. If you're not subscribed to the IG Farm channel, stop what you're doing right now. Go over there and subscribe, because it really tells the story of our mobile home, Emma, EMMA, establishing more and more abundantly. Because I could not tell you any better about, establishing a raw property except to say establishing more and more abundantly. That is exactly what we've done. First, we established having a water meter, and we hauled the water everywhere on our 5-acre property. Then we had water lines. We were able to establish more and more abundantly. And then we, got the water spigot. So now we're able to water each section of the pastures so easily. Now my boys do a great job doing the farm chores, but it's possible for them to do farm chores now because of some of the infrastructure that we were able to establish while living in our campers here. And this property at IAG Farms is just such a testimony of establishing more and more abundantly, and that you can do it with a raw property with no sewer, no water lines, no electricity, while living in a camper, by establishing systems and making those systems better and better and improving on those systems more and more and more. And that is what we have been able to do here on this farm. And y'all might be seeing that again because, with Resurrection Ranch LLC, the Lord gave us the vision to start a business. Tim and I own that business, and we were able, our first thing was establishing grandma and her homestead, but now we see, you know, the Lord is calling us to do more, and there's potential to do more as we restore campers. We have another property, so who knows what the Lord is doing, but all of the things that he's spoken to us are really coming together, and it's a beautiful thing to see his hand at work, to see how he took us from living off-grid here on this property in campers to now having an established barn, to having established fencing for our animals. This is a real and working farm. Down the hill, we have a mini barn. That's what we built instead of building the... We actually were going to build in a spot a big, huge barn with those. We cut these posts down that you see now as fence posts, these big telephone poles. We cut them down, but we were going to build a big old barn with these big old telephone poles, and we realized we didn't have big old material, nor did we have the ability to lift and place the material where we wanted to. So we decided to build the mini barn down the hill instead. But we have an established property with a barn, hard fencing for our animals. Now we also have a mobile home that we live in, that we are circling back to doing some of the exterior work on it. Then we'll be circling back to doing some of the top of the property work, driveway work. Y'all will see that on IAG Farm, so tune in. But yeah, this is what you will be able to accomplish, what's possible if you just set your mind to it. The Lord is on your side, and you're establishing more and more and going from level to level, because the property really is like that. It's like, you know, an onion where you're working through the different levels. You won't be able to do everything, you know, maybe in the first month or the second month or the first year or the second year, but you can establish and build, and you'll look up and you have a working and established property, farm, whatever the Lord is leading you to do. It's definitely possible. Give a shout out to our first resurrection camper, Happy Camper, behind me. But yeah, it is definitely possible, and it's just such a fun journey. Even the hard things become worth it when you can look and see, oh, like, look at that barn, look at the beautiful fencing, and you can walk around your property and testify to what God has enabled you to do. So if you're asking the question, can these dry bones live? This farm is a testimony that yes, they can. It's the Resurrection Ranch, and it is still all about God. I'll see you on the next one.
The world seems such a place to lay. Ran through the days in the sun's warm sway. But somewhere along the road, I felt the shift. The days turned